All right, welcome everybody to Cultural Psychology. Typically, this is a follow-up from Psychology of Leadership. That's Psychology 157. But if you didn't take Psychology 157, it's not necessarily a prereq. It's just if you have taken that class, you know a little bit more about how my class breaks down, because this class is basically going to be the exact same format. But nonetheless, for both parties, if you have taken my class or have not, well, you've made it this far. So you're probably watching this video here. I haven't made it yet, so I still have a little insert there. But you've at least gone through and you've done the authentication survey, and the course ethics agreement. Now, these aren't mine. You do get a grade for them. I think you get 1 point, but it's because it's mandatory by the college that I do it. So I had to. It's really not a whole lot of questioning. It's basically just saying you are going to indeed take this class and you're not going to hire somebody else to take the class for you and pretend it to you the whole time, and you're going to do everything that a good student would do. So take those. I don't remember how many questions they are. I think they're just one question, and it's just asking you that, basically acknowledging that you're going to do the class. Once you do those, submit them, you'll get automatic 1 point. And then you can scroll down here to the syllabus and the schedule, which hopefully you've already done a little bit of reviewing. But I'm going to do the schedule, or excuse me, the syllabus first. So I'm going to move that up because that's what I would like you guys to see first. This is the teacher view, so it may look a little different. These ones over here with the eyeball kind of crossed out, you're not even going to see those things. So you won't see announcements, pages, anything like that. But over here, you will see all this stuff, and hopefully there'll be a video here. And everything else should more or less look the same. So anyways, go ahead and click on syllabus, and it will open up the syllabus for this class. You can download it. I don't really like their little viewer here, so I'm going to go ahead and, well, download it, even though it's already on my computer, but nonetheless, I'll download it again. Go ahead and open it up. And I'm going to back out a little bit so it's not so big. And so here we are, Psychology 181, Cultural Psychology. Spring semester is the spring 2, the second 8 weeks. And I know a lot of you folks took me for the first 8 weeks, but anyways, this is me, Mike Lee, PhD, online. There's my phone number and my email. Now, you can contact me by either of those, but if you have something urgent, definitely text me. That's the fastest way to get a hold of me. I'm kind of all over the place. I teach, I do counseling, and so there's very, very few times that you'll actually be able to catch me with a phone call, just because I usually can't pick up my phone right away. If you leave me a message, just make sure you tell me, make sure you tell me who you are, what class you're from, and then, of course, whatever it is you're calling for. And I will return your phone call. It might just take me a little while. Usually, I don't reply to phone calls, emails, or text messages until I have an answer for you. So if I don't reply, excuse me, if I don't reply back right away, give me a little while, because that's probably what I'm doing. If you don't hear from me in 24 hours, go ahead and send me a follow-up, because I do forget sometimes. So just go ahead and send me a follow-up email, phone call, text message, whatever, and that'll kind of remind me, hey, get back on that. I'll get you an answer shortly. Here's our textbook, which is nice from the other classes, because usually I have at least 2 textbooks, but I actually made this course, so I know how you guys hate having to buy textbooks, because I have been a student as well, and I don't want to buy textbooks either. So anyways, I trimmed it down to 1 book for this, and here's basically the overview of what we'll be talking about: human development, social relationships, cognition, and morality. All of those from a cultural lens. So I mean, there's the one view of how all humans develop, and the one view of how all social relationships develop, and several actually views of how cognition and morality develop. But we kind of put a cultural spin on all of these and look at how culture impacts each of these. So we'll do that, and this is what this little short description here, that's what that's talking about. And then here's the next page, the point value breakdown, a lot like my other classes. Self-reflection essays. So unfortunately, you will have to upload videos again. I know everybody hates doing the videos, but because it's an online class, I'm required to get you guys to do videos so that I can confirm it's actually you doing the assignment. So with the videos, though, with the self-reflection essays, and then there's a presentation at the end, I'm really just looking for a description of what you've done, because the self-reflection essay is, your experience as it applies to, as you've experienced it through culture, whatever theory we're talking about. How have you experienced that theory in your culture? How have you seen it in somebody else's culture? And you write about it. But then the video that goes along with that is just you describing what you've experienced. Okay. What you wrote about and what you're writing, what your topic was. What was your point from this whole essay? Explain that to me in a video. And those videos, I don't remember how long they are. I'll have to look again. And that the first one is actually in week 2, so you'll get a video for that as well. You have a final exam, 125 points. You have several assignments, 50 points, a presentation at the end, participation weekly, which is discussion boards and things like that. The research essay is more of a research presentation. I mean, there is some paperwork that goes along with it, but we'll talk about that as we move forward in the class. My typical late policy, if you've had me before, it's the exact same thing. Basically, it's 10 points per day if you're late on something. But you also get a one-time late pass. So if you're late on, say, a self-reflection essay, you can be late and not be deducted any points. That's just one time, because the idea is to not be late. And here's that one-time late pass talking about here. Grading scale is typical. Withdrawals, plagiarism, attendance, everything's the same. It is every other class you've probably taken at Lindenwood. In the event that this is your first class, though, I suppose I should probably go over it with you. Withdrawals, I can't do that. You have to talk to your advisor about that. They won't even tell me. They'll just stop showing up on my roster one day, and I'll just assume that you've been you either died or you got withdrawn. So, plagiarism. Don't take plagiarism. I mean, don't take stuff from other papers and not give them credit. And then 2 absences. That's more for the in-class classroom, but nonetheless, if you don't log in for 2 weeks, that's considered 2 absences. So that same thing, same deal, and 3 weeks absent is a failing grade. So there's more on plagiarism, can be found here. You can actually click on it. Here's the course learning objectives. I'm not gonna go over it too much because it's really just a bunch of technical jargon stuff. If you want to know what you're going to be learning here, well, you can sit through the class, or you could read this as a preview. Participation. So let's see, each student, so same deal. It's probably just like every other online class you've ever been in. You just have discussion questions or an individual question, some kind of assignment, and I label them all as assignment. They're going to be an average of 6 points per week, adding up to 50 points at the end of the end of the grading period. The end of the 8 weeks, which I think is March 5th or March 8th or something like that. There's a journal article presentation. That's what it was talking about up here. It's actually not a research essay so much. I mean, you do research because you have to find a journal article, but you're actually presenting on a journal article that has something to do with, some theory we cover, but then also how is that impacted, or how does it impact culture? The 5th week, 3 journal articles regarding theory covered in text. That's from our textbook I'm talking about. So you pick a theory out of the textbook, and then you go and find at least three, journal articles regarding that theory. And then during week 6, we'll choose 1 article. So out of the 3, you kind of narrow it down to 1, and you say, this is the one that I want to use, and provide a summary of the main points, key findings, overall takeaway. That'll be the assignment that's due in week 6. And then in week 8, you basically do a video presentation about the main points, key findings, and overall takeaways that'll be posted for the class. And really the idea is for you to teach us something about culture that you've taken away, because these journal articles are basically the cutting edge of what we have in research. I mean, if I was to go out and write a new research article, the first place I start is by reading research articles, so I can find out where are we in the field right now. What are we still wondering about? What have we learned in the last 5 years, and what are we still trying to figure out? And so that's what I want you to do, is basically give me a summary of what your journal article, what are they still trying to figure out? What was their purpose on conducting this research? What do they hope to figure out? And then last but not least, what is it that they still don't know after they conducted their study? What is it that's still left out there for you to figure out? And that's really the basis of where research comes from. You just pick up, as a researcher, what I would do is I would pick up like the recent journal articles, and I would find out what are they still wondering about at the end of their studies? And eventually, if you read enough of the journal articles, you start to find out that everybody, well, not everybody, but several people are on the same kind of wavelength. They're all wondering about the same thing. Maybe they started to look at student motivation in remedial classes. And then from that, they started to figure out that maybe one particular type of class works to help students learn math a little bit better. Okay, great. Well, then at the end of the day, maybe they're wondering, was it the teacher, or was it the process, or was it the fact that we shortened the classes to an hour? Was it the fact that we had 15 classes instead of 8? Whatever it was, whatever they're wondering about, that is kind of the cutting edge of research, where we kind of figure out what still needs to be researched, and then we do some research on it. That's what we as researchers do. Anyways, midterm exam. There is no final exam. The journal article presentation takes place of that. Same thing as in my other classes, a one-page self-reflection research paper, and that's legitimate one page. So you have like your header, that's your name, your professor's name, which is me, Dr. Lee. What comes after that? The class name, and then the date, and then the title, and then that's like a quarter of the page right there. And then you just have 3/4 of the page left to fill up, because we do have to use MLA, at least that's what I was told. I prefer, honestly, to teach you guys APA, since this is a psychology class, and APA stands for American Psychological Association. But I was asked to teach MLA, which luckily for you, I'm also an English teacher, so here at Lindenwood. So if you took me my English class, I suppose this probably does look a little bit different. But nonetheless, we are teaching MLA in this class, so make sure you use that for all essays. So whether that be the paperwork at the end, or that be a self-reflection paper, I'll usually point out in the instructions, like, hey, use MLA. Treat this as though it's a real research paper. Even though it's only one page, you do it. I think there's one in week 2 and in week 4. Just because it's only one page, still treat it like a research paper. That is, use third person. Don't use I, me, my, any of those kind of pronouns. Use MLA guidelines. Have one other source. I don't know where that's written. I know it's in there somewhere. I don't know if it is in here, but I'll make sure it's written in the instructions in week 2. But make sure you have at least one other source other than your textbook. So you can have your textbook. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you'll probably want to use your textbook as one source. But even if you use your textbook, you have to have one other source on top of that, because there has to be one outside source for your self-reflection papers. Also, I think I've mentioned this like 10 times now, but make sure you include a 5-minute video, like a journal entry, basically explaining to us what you wrote about, what was your point in that paper. And give us a video on that, at least 5 minutes. Excuse me. And that is also due with the assignment. You can submit twice. I know a lot of people are wondering, like, whenever they submit that, if I submit the paper and then I go and I submit the link to my my video, is that going to erase the paper submission? No, I see all of your submissions. You can submit 10 times and I'll see 10 submissions, and I can access all of them. So submit your paper first, and then just resubmit and submit your video, and it'll give me both of them. This is just emphasizing the MLA perspective, or excuse me, the MLA format. Just make sure you do that. Make sure you use MLA. That includes 12-point font, Times New Roman font, double-spaced. I don't know if I actually have a Turnitin link in there. If I do, good. But if not, yeah, I mean, if there's not a Turnitin link, don't take that as like, oh, sweet, I can plagiarize. Because if it sounds like it's written for a journal article or for a website, I always go back to Google and just check it out. And yeah, I mean, if you can get it past me, good on you. But I wouldn't try it, because then you get a 0 for the paper. Let's see, what else? So this is all the technical jargon stuff that basically goes with, like, if you have disabilities, you can contact Jeremy Keys. Code of conduct, you can read through those 8 guys there, and then just our educational policy. This is the ADP. I don't know that we actually call ourselves the ADP, but basically it's the 8-week semester, folks. That's what we used to call the ADP. Okay, so that's the syllabus. I won't bore you with that anymore. Let's go back home and go to the schedule. Now I won't, you know, belabor on this point too long, but let's download this again just because I don't like looking at it in that small form. Zoom out. Oops. Zoom in maybe. All right, we have 8 weeks. 8-week guide to cultural psychology. Your homework for each week is over here on the red, and that is due the following week. So you'll see that these dates match up. 3/22 is your homework due date, and well, what do you know? 3/23 is the beginning of week 2. So what that looks like, and I'm going to this is I'm going to recycle these videos. So if these dates don't match up, if I start teaching this in the summer of 2025 or whatever, these dates are going to be off. But just know that what I'm saying here is that we start on a Monday, which if you look at 3/16/2020, that's a Monday, and then we go until 3/22/2020, and that is a Sunday. So we go Monday to Sunday, and that's Sunday night at midnight. And I suppose Monday night at 12:01 in the morning, we start the next week. So Monday to Sunday is our week. And so over here, you can see the due dates. For the first week, we have Culture and Psychology Chapter 1. That's your textbook. And an online discussion. Review the syllabus, which we're doing right now. Course overview, again, what we're doing right now. Talk about what is culture. I have some other stuff that you can look at for that. This is just kind of an intro to the course. And how does culture influence human behaviors? So over here in the gold, that's what we're going over that week in the videos and such. And then over here in the red is the assignment or are the assignments that are due for that week. And then, of course, the due dates on those. So you can scroll through and look at those. 8 weeks. And at the end, journal article, presentation, and then the surveys. So that's like extra credit stuff. Anyways, that's the schedule for the whole course. So if you have any questions about that, of course, email, text, or call. But let's, for right now, go ahead and click home. All right, so now go ahead and take a look at the week 1 reading, and then here's a video on what is culture. And then last but not least, your 2 assignments for this week. So if you look back at the schedule, these were the discussion forum, that's this guy, and then how does culture influence human behavior and mental processes. So I'll go over those with you real quick. Okay, so here's the discussion board. Click here to actually start the discussion. Once you click that reply button, I don't know if you saw that or not. Let me refresh so you can see it again. You click in the reply box, and it'll open up into a text box, and now magically you can start to type. Now what I'm looking for here is I want you to talk about your own culture. So consider your own culture and elements that define you. This isn't necessarily only race, ethnicity, gender, or region. That could be something else. So if you consider yourself most of your culture coming from maybe music culture or art culture or maybe technology culture, just basically how do you define your culture? And then you can put as many aspects to that as you want, as many elements that you see fit. But that's kind of what I talk about here. One's culture can be made up of many things, including family, age, and interest. So here I give an example. What are some of the objectives and subjective elements of your culture? So you'll get that in the reading in chapter 1. And what values, beliefs, norms, attitudes, and worldviews does your culture hold? Also chapter 1. So anyways, with these concepts from chapter 1, please don't give just theoretical answers. I'm not looking at, what generically, like what is culture. I'm talking about you specifically. I want you to give me a real world example of from your life, what does your culture look like? You wake up and you play piano from 8 to 9 with a group of other pianists, or I saw a commercial for Facebook, and it was like kazoo group. If kazoo group is your culture, then tell me about it. It's as much about applying the concept as it is about getting to know you. So I want you to use the concepts in the book. Ask yourself, what do these concepts really look like in my life? And then tell me what those concepts look like in your life. So make sure this is done in at least 100 words. Doesn't require MLA formatting, because you really can't do MLA formatting in these little hyperlink boxes. So so go ahead and complete that. Like I said, 100 minimum. I'll post mine here pretty quickly. And apparently I didn't put any replies. You don't have to do any replies for this. So much for it being a discussion forum. But anyways, not going to change the directions now. So you just get out of that, I guess. So next one, how does culture influence human behavior and mental processes? Now this is a little bit less about you, a little bit more about applying the concept that you'll see on page 27 of your textbook, basically how culture influences behavior. Excuse me. So in the introduction, you talked about your real world stuff. Explain what figure 1.5 what is it trying to show you? Um, let's see, review what's in the book. I'm looking for an explanation in your own words. So basically look at it. It's a lot like that week one if you were in my leadership psychology, it's a lot like that week one project where you look at the data and interpret it. So same thing here, look at figure 1.5 and interpret it in your own words. And so in 250 words, tell me what that means. Pretend you're explaining this concept to someone in your family, a friend, or someone you work with, because I don't want you to use textbook jargon. I mean, I want you to read the textbook, and I want you to understand the textbook, but I want you to tell me about what it really means without using big words, right? So use words that you would normally use, with a friend or a family or someone you work with. You're not going to go out there and read them the textbook because, well, they could read the textbook, and I have read the textbook, so I don't want you to retell me that stuff. I want you to tell me what it means in your own words. Okay, so a minimum 250 words. I think I said that like 3 times, so make sure you're meeting the minimums because I do check those. As a matter of fact, most of your homework is going to be completion grades except for like the research-based stuff. Like so these two will basically be completion grades, but once you start getting down to week 2, and you'll get like the reflection essay, that's going to be graded thoroughly. I'll provide you feedback and all that stuff. But the idea here is for you to have an opportunity to learn it without having such a big risk. I know it's stressful to want to learn something and then have to worry so much about the grade. Like, oh, did I get it right? Did I get it right? No, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about you actually learning and applying it to your life. And so it gives you a little room for error there. So I can give you some feedback if you're not quite getting it, but you don't necessarily lose a grade, right? You'll still get the completion grade for it, for most of the assignments. And then you can think of these self-reflection essays as kind of the quiz or the test or something, where those will be graded pretty strictly. But hopefully the idea is that these other assignments give you the opportunity to learn it and make the mistakes, and that way you can really apply yourself on the bigger assignments. Anyways, that's Psychology 181, cultural psychology. If you guys have any questions, my contact information was in the syllabus here. So like I said, call me, text me, email me. If you need anything, texting is definitely the fastest response rate. I would say email and call are about the same response speed. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions. Welcome to the class, and I will be seeing you guys around. Thanks.